brothers and sisters, peace. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Correcting His Story with JR. So, this month's podcast, we will be talking about someone that's near and dear to me, a man that I definitely revere, and I can honestly say I wouldn't be who I am had I not studied this man's life. And I do say like I don't reserve anything when I say I studied this man's life. I've read over 6 books on Malcolm X. I've watched over 20 documentaries on Minister Malcolm X. I watched this movie numerous amount of times. Malcolm X was my favorite movie. So, in discussing Malcolm X, Minister Malcolm X, some of us may refer to him as El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. For those of you who don't know, the El Hajj came once he took his pilgrimage to Mecca. And that's something a pilgrimage to Mecca is something that's required of every Muslim. If they physically can and financially can, they are required to take a pilgrimage to Mecca as the Prophet Muhammad did. And a lot of things are going with that. But I've told you what Malcolm meant to me. Malcolm didn't graduate high school. He didn't go to college. Malcolm got his education in the streets. He learned by reading the dictionary. That's how he got his diction good. Malcolm read multiple books, a lot of books, different genre of books. And Malcolm by far is one of the greatest orators I ever heard. And I'm not the only one to say that. Scholars say this. So once he converted to Islam, Malcolm turned from a pimp. He transitioned from a pimp, a thug, a hustler, and he converted to Islam. He quit doing drugs. Malcolm didn't fornicate. Malcolm was an upright man. So that's some of the many reasons why I revered that brother, and I revere him to this day. If you know me, you see me with my Malcolm X hat on. You know me, see me with an Africa piece or a Malcolm X necklace. That's just a constant reminder to me that who I am isn't who I have to be. And just the sacrifice that this brother gave for his community, which is my community, and dare I say America in general. Malcolm X didn't just sacrifice for his community. His sacrifice affected America. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to the topics that I will be correcting or just informing you on, giving you a little bit of insight that I've gathered from my study. And the 3 topics are, well, the first topic is, was Malcolm X a racist? So this topic came about, I was talking to one of my former players about 2 years ago. And when I mentioned Malcolm X, his name is Trey King. When I mentioned Malcolm X, Trey cut me off and said, wasn't Malcolm X a racist? So I'm sure a lot of people think that was heavily propagated by the media, that Malcolm X was a racist. So for you, Trey, that's the first topic I will discuss. Was Malcolm X a racist? Did Malcolm X preach hate? The second topic, we will cover the different views of Minister Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King. And the third topic, it will be the seldom discussed topic of Malcolm X's impact on the civil rights movement. And in conclusion, I'm sure you will see why I feel Malcolm X is the greatest human being to ever walk this earth. That can be proved to walk this earth. There's other people that they say is the greatest human to ever walk this earth, but there's proof that Malcolm did. So, question. Topic 1, was Malcolm X a racist? Y'all know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Malcolm X wasn't a racist. But you ain't got to listen to me. Let's ask Malcolm.
You and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us. We're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us. But we are not nonviolent with anyone who is violent with us.
Close curtains. Like, we ain't gotta talk no more. Like Malcolm said it. You never heard Malcolm X say, "Pick up your rifle, let's kill every white person in sight." I've heard other people say it, but you never heard Malcolm say that. You never heard Malcolm say, you never heard Malcolm say, let's get a bomb and let's nuke all these people. Though they oppressed us, let's get a bomb and nuke them. Malcolm X did not preach hate. Malcolm X was not a racist. Malcolm X was a peaceful man. He practiced Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. When they greet and when they greet each other, peace be unto you, brother. Peace be unto you. I've met Muslims I've met Muslims, brothers and sisters who practice Islam, who fall under the Nation of Islam. I've seen brothers with face tattoos, teardrops in their eyes. Those teardrops denoting that they have killed someone. But after they take on the religion of Islam, after they take in the teachings of the honorable Elijah Muhammad, they were some of the most respectful, peaceful brothers I've ever seen. Now, caveat, however, comma, it's a difference between being peaceful to those who are peaceful to you. It's a difference from that and defending yourself. That's a difference. Malcolm never advocated violence. Malcolm advocated self-defense. Big difference. Because Malcolm wasn't a mainstream civil rights leader who told you, turn the other cheek. Love thy enemy. Which was intelligent of Malcolm to not be that way, and no disrespect to anyone else. Because he wasn't like that, they consider Malcolm a hate teacher. They use words like a black supremacist because Malcolm told you to love yourself. Because Malcolm told you to love yourself because you're black. Love yourself. They consider him a black supremacist. Malcolm told black people, you have a right in this country to bear arms. Why not? So once Malcolm told black people to buy firearms, to buy rifles to defend themselves, the media said that Malcolm was advocating for black people to pick up firearms and go kill all white people. That's what the media did. So the media had you thinking that Malcolm was racist. The media had you thinking that Malcolm preached hate. Malcolm said to call a black man a racist for simply defending himself is to condemn the raped for fighting back against the rapist. To condemn the sheep for fighting back against the wolf. That's like condemning the slave from running or resisting while beaten by a slave master. Malcolm never preached racism. Malcolm didn't preach hate. That was media propaganda.
They should have the right to defend themselves against any attack made against them by anyone. If a dog is biting a black man, the black man should kill the dog. Whether the dog is a police dog, a hound dog, or any kind of dog. If a dog is sick on a black man, when that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog or any two-legged dog who sicks the dog.
Close curtains. When Malcolm would teach history, they would call Malcolm a racist. So let's imagine this. Imagine a Jewish man teaching his people about what the Nazis did to Jewish people. And they call that man a racist. His teacher taught him that the white man was the devil. That's what his teacher taught him, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the white man was the devil. Now, is that racist? Let's look at it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that heaven and hell is on earth. These aren't places that you go after you die. Heaven and hell is on earth. This ain't where you go if you naughty or you nice. That's a child story. Now, that's what you tell kids. That's what you tell kids to get them to act right. But these ain't Santa Claus stories. So when I look around and I see people living in hell, you take notice. Like, is it a coincidence that that the majority of black people at that time were living in the ghettos, in the slums? Is that a coincidence? So that will be considered hell. So when you look around and see who's in control of hell. And biblically, the person that's running hell is who? The devil. So is that hate? Okay, again, you don't have to take my word for it. What did Malcolm say?
That heaven is a condition and hell is a condition. Right here. He said when you poor, that's hell. When you're hungry, that's hell. When you're dumb, that's hell. You know what hell is. When you don't have rights, that's hell. When you're a slave, that's hell. When you can't find a job because your skin is the wrong color, you're in hell. And the devil is the one giving you hell. He got blue eyes, blonde hair, white skin. You can't deny that. You'd like to deny it, but you can't deny it. Because you have caught hell from the white man. You can't deny it. You have caught hell from the white man. I know you'll jump up and say, well, I caught some hell from some Negroes too. That's because they was acting like the white man. They weren't white, were they? But they were acting like the white man.
Brothers and sisters, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what Brother Minister Malcolm said. And this is what he was taught by his teacher. But please don't shoot the messenger. This is what the brother minister said. Malcolm said there is no place on earth that the white man went and created peace. He caused hell all throughout Africa. He came to the West and brought hell to Native Americans. The British started opium wars in China, and so on and so on. Brothers and sisters, this isn't racism. This isn't hate. This man is stating true events. So, how did Malcolm preach hate? How is Malcolm a racist? Now, let's discuss the next topic. The differences in opinions, the differences in views shared by Dr. King and Minister Malcolm X. This part is not to condemn Dr. King at all. I am very appreciative for the sacrifice that Dr. King made, and I don't take that lightly. I am very appreciative for the sacrifice and all the great things that Dr. King did. But I just want to highlight some of Malcolm's point of views.
It has been suggested also that this movement preaches a gospel of violence.
No, the black people in this country have been the victims of violence at the hands of the white man for 400 years. And following the ignorant Negro preachers, we have thought that it was godlike to turn the other cheek to the brute that was brutalizing us. And today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is showing black people in this country that just as the white man and every other person on this earth has God-given rights, natural rights, civil rights, any kind of rights that you can think of, when it comes to defending himself, black people we should have the right to defend ourselves also. And because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes black people brave enough, men enough to defend ourselves no matter what the odds are, the white man runs around here with the doctrine that Mr. Muhammad is advocating violence when he's actually telling Negroes to defend themselves against violent people.
I see. Well, Reverend Martin Luther King preaches a doctrine of nonviolent insistence upon the rights of the American Negro. What is your attitude toward this philosophy?
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolent. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's this American white man. And they have proved it throughout the country by the police dogs and the police clubs. 100 years ago, they used to put on a white sheet and use a bloodhound against Negroes. Today, they have taken off the white sheet and put on police uniforms. They've traded in the bloodhounds for police dogs, and they're still doing the same thing. And just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the Bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy or pray for those who use them despitefully. Today, Martin Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom or a religious Uncle Tom who is doing the same thing today to keep Negroes defenseless in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless in the face of the attacks of the Klan in that day.
But the goal of Dr. King is full equality and full rights of citizenship for Negroes.
The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to get Negroes to forgive the people who have brutalized them for 400 years by lulling them to sleep and making them forgetting what those whites have done to them. But the masses of black people in America today don't go for what Martin Luther King is putting down. As you said in one of your articles, it's psychologically insecure, something of that sort. I forget how you put it. But you didn't endorse what Martin Luther King was doing yourself.
I do not reject his goals of full integration and full equality rights for American citizens. Do you reject these goals?
If you don't think that he's walking on the right road, I'm quite sure you don't agree that he'll get to the right place. And if you would classify his method as psychologically unrealistic, I think that if a man's method is psychologically unrealistic, which means the road or the means or the method that he's using, I think as a psychologist, you'd be very doubtful that he would reach the right goal.
There is one correction, Mr. Malcolm, I'd like to make here. In that same piece that you're quoting from, I said that his methods are effective. His philosophy of love of the oppressor, I thought, was psychologically burdensome.
Now, you heard Minister Malcolm. You heard Minister Malcolm speak on Dr. King. Now, I want to say this: they both were champions for equality for black people in America, hands down. They just had different methods by going about it. Malcolm didn't believe in integration, but Malcolm didn't believe in segregation. So now you're saying, okay, it's only integration, segregation. Malcolm believed in separation. He said, if the men of this country that brought us here and treated us poorly, if they want to continue to treat us poorly, we should leave. And this was his Garveyite mentality. We should go back to Africa. If they don't want to send us back to Africa, then all the work that we did here in this country, building this country up, free labor, they should give us land and they should give us the tools to work that land. Malcolm believed in separation. Malcolm said segregation is forced upon you, but separation is a choice. So think about this. They never say, I never heard that white schools were segregated, but black schools were segregated, not separated. White schools were separated. So separated meaning we have equal access. We have our own, and we willingly separate. Segregation is forced. So that they both wanted better for black people. They just had different ideologies. Malcolm believed that it was criminal. It was criminal for a man to strike your wife and your child and you not defend them. You were facing an enemy that was bombing a place of worship with no regards whether your mother, child, or wife was inside. You can't be peaceful with an enemy that isn't peaceful with you. That's what Malcolm said. You can't be peaceful with an enemy that isn't peaceful with you. Malcolm asked why are white liberals back in the nonviolent movement? Why are they telling you to sit in for freedom? They didn't sit in Vietnam. America didn't peacefully protest the Revolutionary War. When America has a problem, they grab you. They send you to fight their wars. But when you come back, they tell you to march, to sit in, to peacefully resist your oppressor. But they don't tell you that when they got a conflict overseas. That's insane. I agree with Malcolm. It's hypocritical of a government that will bomb foreign lands but will tell you to peacefully protest. And that still goes on today. Malcolm didn't hate Dr. King. Malcolm hated the thought of innocent black babies having dogs suck on them. and men turning the other cheek. Imagine your father was brave enough to go to Vietnam. He received the Purple Heart. He received the Purple Heart in combat, but when he came home, he peacefully resisted a mob that attacked your mother. How would you feel about your father? Like, this is what Malcolm taught us. This is what Malcolm preached. And people say, and people commonly mistake saying, well, Malcolm was in the North. Malcolm was in the North. It wasn't like the South. I encourage y'all to read. They caught hell in Inglewood. That's on the West Coast. They caught hell in Baltimore. They caught hell in Chicago. Even if you watch the movie, you will see where the police beat one of the Muslims' head in Inglewood, I think it was Oakland. I'm sorry, in Oakland. The police raided a mosque, but the brothers was coming back from the cleaners. Unarmed brothers shot him. So it bothers me when people say that all the work was in the South. It was hell to be caught all over America if you was black. All over the world, to be honest with you. But when we speak specifically of America, it was hell all over America to be caught. And it won't no shorts given out. But to get back on topic, once Malcolm broke from the Nation of Islam, because before Malcolm wasn't able to truly get involved in the civil rights movement, and that was one of his gripes with the Nation of Islam. Of course, there's many other things, but I'm not gonna touch on that. That was one of his biggest complaints, that he felt like there was millions of black people struggling, and he wanted to bring the nation in the fight. So once he left the Nation of Islam, he sat down with Dr. King. Him and Dr. King spoke, though they didn't see eye to eye. Malcolm never, even when he came back from Mecca, Malcolm never believed in peaceful resistance. But he saw that him and Dr. King were on the same page. That they both felt like they needed equality and justice. Now, the difference is, one thing I would say was, Dr. King focused on civil rights. Malcolm focused on human rights. So that's why when you read about Malcolm, you read about once he took his pilgrimage to Mecca, he traveled all through Africa. I think he went to France as well, and he was trying to take the fight. Malcolm knew we couldn't win in an American court. You're not gonna win against the people that's oppressing you. So Malcolm wanted to take the fight to the United Nations, take it to a world court, and Malcolm called out other nations. For doing business with America. Other nations that would condemn South Africa for apartheid, but yet they'd say nothing about America when the same thing was happening in America. So there were slight differences between the two, but overall, Malcolm did not agree with a peaceful resistance because he knew that his enemy wasn't peaceful towards him. Now, my last topic. Malcolm was, and I say this, Malcolm may have been the biggest contributor to the civil rights movement, though he's the least talked about. Some people know where the idea of peaceful resistance came from. Peaceful resistance came from Mahatma Gandhi of India. The only issue is Gandhi's people, the Indians, vastly outnumbered their oppressors. Vastly outnumbered. So when you take that same tactic and you bring it to America, Africans never outnumbered Caucasians in America. Never outnumbered them. I think right now the population is 13%. And I'm pretty sure it was around about the same thing around that time. Also, what people don't know and what isn't talked about, they lived the peaceful resistance movement. They lived that. But also, they had a militant force in case that didn't work. Gandhi had some bad brothers with swords in case the peaceful resistance didn't work. Now, Malcolm, now dare I say, and some people may agree with me, some people may not, Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam was the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was Dr. King's group. Malcolm was their militant force in case the peaceful resistance didn't work. I remember reading it, and JFK said, we better give Dr. King what he wants. If we don't give him what he wants, the masses of African Americans, the masses of black people will start to follow Malcolm X. That's that militant force working, because they're like, look, Dr. King asked for this. We really don't rock with him. Like, we can shut him out. But then, like, Malcolm is threatening people. Malcolm is on college campuses. Malcolm is in the hood raising people up, and people are starting to follow Malcolm. We might want to give Dr. King what he wants, because I think we can tolerate that a lot more than we can these militant Negroes. The Black Panther Party was started after Malcolm X. Their original name was the Sons of Malcolm. Look it up. Without Malcolm X, you don't have a Stokely Carmichael. He self-proclaimed that Malcolm inspired him. Malcolm X may have been, if not the greatest, Malcolm was our Black Messiah. J. Edgar Hoover said we must prevent the rise of the Black Messiah who can inspire and uplift the masses of black people. That's why they killed Malcolm. Because Malcolm had a voice like no other, and not only did Malcolm have a voice, Malcolm was a product of the slums, just like many of us, just like many of them who followed Malcolm. So, that's my conclusion. And I hope that I've said something in this podcast to make you look at Malcolm in a different way. Or I hope I said something in this podcast to make you want to look up Malcolm X. Make you want to see the man, the myth, the legend that I spoke of. Brothers and sisters, I conclude that Malcolm X, our Black Messiah, our shining black prince, was the greatest human being. I ain't gonna say greatest human being, because Harriet Tubman got my heart. But Malcolm X was the greatest man to ever walk this earth. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, whichever platform you watch it on. But this has been fun. It's been real. Thank you for tuning in to Correcting His Story with JR. Until next time, peace, family.